Alrighty. Well, Ashley, we are live. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's a Friday.
Thanks for having me.
Um,
Yes.
where are you dialing in from right now?
Denver, Colorado. So luckily in my home office today. It's nice and sunny and great day for golf. You should head
Yeah,
out there after this.
yeah, I know. I almost feel bad I mean, we've kind of crossed the noon time. It's kind of Friday afternoon in the spring. Are you gonna be teeing it up at all this weekend, or where does golf fit into your personal
Oof.
life, I guess, compared to talking about it all day?
Good question. It is on the list of importance to play more golf this year. So as I think everyone in the golf industry go through waves of you play a ton of golf and then you don't play any golf. And this year it's the goal to get back to playing golf at least a couple times a month. So that is the goal, probably starting in the next month or so. We'll get to play at our conference in San Diego. So hopefully I'll get to play before then so I don't make a fool of myself. But um, we'll get out there for sure.
Awesome. And is uh is Applewood your home course, or where do you usually tee it up?
Yeah, I'd say Applewood. We have a really nice Monday night out, kind of geared toward the ladies, but I go out there with them. It's a little four-person scramble, dinner and golf included. So it's just a good time to go out with friends and also really connect with the community for us.
That's
What
great.
about you?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm still, as you know, I'm still in my honeymoon phase with golf. I feel
Yes.
like what's funny is a lot of the folks I talk to, they're kind of burnt out on like the love of the game and being in that like golf is the greatest ever phase. They're kind of like, when I have 4 hours free, I want to get the hell away from a golf course. Whereas
Yeah.
I'm like,
Just
we're still feeding. I mean, all my friends and I we're always planning like, hey, where are we playing? How can we get out? So no golf on the books yet, but I
yeah.
definitely want to change that. You know what's funny? This weekend actually, I'm going to Top Golf with like 10 friends. And
Okay.
this is actually kind of funny, but my wife has never been on a golf course. She,
What?
because
I would have never guessed that.
it is kind of, we need to change that. But this whole thing around Top Golf and entertainment, lifestyle golf almost as
Mhm.
a bridge into the game. I think we're almost going to sample that because there's four guys and four gals. All the guys are
Mhm.
fanatics and the gals think we're nuts, which we probably are. But it'll be fun to get out there this weekend. So I will have a club at hand at a minimum on Saturday.
There we go. Well, hopefully she'll have what they call the shot euphoria, right? And
Right.
want you to take her out next week.
Yeah, well, the Bedittism or the I don't know if we can give Greg credit for that, but that was really fun. Definitely the
Yeah.
shot euphoria. Maybe connect on a drive and be like, okay, this is fun, right?
Yeah, I've used that term a few times now. So, especially at
Yeah,
Top Golf.
yeah, absolutely. Well, Ashley, appreciate you jumping on, and it's been really great getting to know you, I guess, over the last year or so. And then, both working with some of the Touchstone facilities, as well as seeing you on the conference circuit and learning a little bit more about, the secret sauce of Touchstone. So really appreciate you joining us here today for, I think this is episode 5 or 6 of Revenue Alert, our riveting series talking about a lot of the inner workings of the course and the art and the science and the initiatives that each different operator is taking to kind of grow the game in their portfolio. So maybe I just would love to tee it up with a question of, how'd you make your way into being the vice president of sales and marketing for Touchstone Golf?
Well, that's a funny story, but I feel like a lot of people's story in the industry. So I started at a golf course in college, knowing nothing about golf, and started as a banquet server and cart girl, and just worked my way up. And when I was graduating, there was an opening in the sales office, and at the time, I thought I was going to go to law school or get my law school MBA degree at the time, and just started working in the office. And next thing I knew, it was 8 years later, and I was still working with another management company at the time, and I just loved it. I fell in love with the game. I fell in love with the guest experience. I just really loved everything about it. So starting in wedding and event sales, which then moved into tournaments, and a little bit of revenue management is kind of what this is. This whole talk is about. But I came over to Touchstone 6 years ago, And at the same time, I was getting my master's in marketing, but I have a background in finance. So I think coming into revenue management fits very well because the background in finance and numbers, along with the marketing and connecting with the customer, is what really drives me. And I love both aspects. So revenue management just fits really well with those. Yeah. So that's a little bit an overview of my story. So cart girl
Yeah.
to sales and marketing vice president is a fun story.
That's awesome. And when you say you loved it, did you love the game of golf? Did you love just the action of a course? I mean, do you have any memories of what got you
Yeah.
like that first feeling of excitement about the game?
I think I've always been an outdoorsy person from when I was young. And so I started actually at Coyote Hills in Fullerton, which has a nice, about 5K loop around it. And so I would run the loop, and I just always thought it was so beautiful. And it's very rare to find an open space like that in Orange County, as you probably know. And so I just loved the course. And I think being doing beverage cart service to start, obviously just being out on the course every day is what initially made me love being at the property. And then as soon as I started playing, I just have a very competitive nature, and it's a game you could play by yourself. It's a game you can play with friends. It's, timeless as far as age. And so I started to connect and play with my dad and play with my aunt, and it just became something I loved, and not only with coworkers but also with my family. And again, being at the property and being outdoors is always great. And I feel like I'm a pretty healthy person, so I would encourage anyone, if they're going to go have a beer and walk the course at the same time, right? Get the best of both worlds.
That's awesome. And did you take lessons to get started, or did you just kind of be an athlete and hack it around, or how'd you learn how to play? Because I feel like that's one of the most intimidating parts of the game is you got to like embrace being really bad and really frustrated
Yes.
for a prolonged period of time, right? So
I
how'd you
think I'm
learn how to
still
play?
there.
Yeah,
I
no,
think
me
I'm
too.
still at that point, but that's a good question. I think I never really took lessons on a consistent basis, which may be my problem. So shouldn't be. That's not a recommendation here to anyone else. I should probably take lessons. I have access to a lot of lessons, but I had just had a lot of friends that played golf. I think like any other sport I've been interested in, you go out there with your friends and they give you a tip or two, and going back to the same shot euphoria, it's like you get a really good shot and you just get hooked. And I think being an athlete, you kind of feel what that felt like and try to replicate that as much as possible over and over again. So that's kind of where I've been at. But fortunately, I think being an athlete has helped, made it not so hard.
Yeah. Did you think that your education of from the finance side or the marketing side, was there anything academic that translated into one role, more than other? Obviously, your gig now and VP of sales and marketing probably is like smack in the middle of those, academic professions. But I'm curious for you, how early in your career you found synergies with what you were learning, with what you could apply into your job.
That's a great question. I think I felt that right away. So I found when I first started in sales, not to toot my own horn, I was top salesperson the first couple years I started, and I think it's because I've always tried to connect with people. That's one thing. But then I think when it comes to my education, a lot of times coming into sales, team members are coming from the communication side, which is great because they can have that connection, like I just talked about. But they don't always think about the sale in the back end and what that revenue looks like and what the expenses are behind it. And that makes a huge difference for the property, right? So you can sell a $10,000 wedding and have $6,000 in expenses, or you can sell a $10,000 wedding and have $4,000 in expenses. And when you look at 30 weddings for the year, that $2,000 a wedding is huge. And so I looked a lot at that, and I really studied that as I started to sell. And if it came to it, and just like any restaurant goer, the thing that's probably have the box that says it's a favorite is not the favorite. It's what they make the most money on, right? And so starting to bring those things into how I sold weddings right away made a huge difference. And I think now it's somewhat similar, coming from the marketing side. Again, I think people a lot of people with a marketing background purely look at the marketing side, and again, not as much the operational side of it and the expenses. And so I think having that finance background helps me see it from a global perspective versus just the one section I'm looking at that time.
Yeah, that's fascinating. It sounds like almost you broke the roles, started with the almost like the outcome. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
here's where we're trying to go, and let's work back into what it takes to achieve, a great margin and with a great product, right?
Mhm.
Do you feel like that's always been part of your orientation, is being goal oriented, or would you say it was more so building a plan and trusting the process a little bit? I guess the question is, how much, when you would create a plan, is it very scientific around, here's the KPI, here's what we're trying to drive, here's how we get there? Or is it a little more, hey, let's listen to our customers, let's try new things, let's adapt? I'm curious how you balance kind of that art and science of I guess it depends on the role, but thinking through those
Yeah.
different gigs you've been in.
Yeah, it definitely depends on the role. I'd speak to where I'm at right now. And I think I consistently, because we have a large operations team within Touchstone, and I'm the marketing side of things, I tend to try to look at the customer perspective more and what it looks like from the customer perspective and how they feel and how their process goes. And then probably the opposite that I used to when I first started, I think coming right out of finance. When I first started selling events, I was looking more at the finance side. But now I think ultimately we're in the hospitality industry, and our customer is the most important thing, or most important aspect of our business. Obviously, our customer and our employees. And so I think from a customer perspective, it's really important for us to know what they want and to listen to them, like you just said. And so I think that's more what I focus on now. But there's always that side of things that my goal is to keep customers. And I think, we've talked about this at a lot of conferences together, and the golf industry is booming right now. And we have a ton of new customers and a ton of customers that weren't playing golf that have come back and have loved the game. So I think it's not only my job, but it's all of our jobs. And I think, your company speaks to this, is to engage with those customers in a different way that they think of golf in general, not just Applewood or not just our golf courses, but that they fall in love with the game and continue to stay playing the game. We don't want to have the same thing happen after the Tiger boom, right? We slowly had less and less golfers. And right now, I think it's on us to not take advantage of that and to really figure out what our customers' wants and needs are to keep them playing golf and to help them become advocates so they continue to bring people to the golf course, if that makes sense. I think that was a very roundabout answer to your question.
No, it's really interesting because you've probably had a front row seat in all of your sales roles, from, call it, boom to decline to, COVID, where probably there was a period of time, maybe from, say, March to April, where the sky is falling and it's like, is this the end of the world or what is going on? But then, as summer approached in 2020, folks like myself picked up a club, fell in love with the game, and then you get that sugar rush of, almost like the COVID boom, right? Like that Tiger boom. Mm-hmm. So how have the tactics changed from, call it 2018, pre-boom to post-boom, and kind of doubling down on a lot of the momentum you've seen in the demand for the game?
Yeah, I think our focuses have changed a little bit. I mean, not that these weren't our focuses before, but I think our top two priorities that you'll hear, Mark, our president, say, and a lot of our team, are reinvesting in our properties, which wasn't necessarily something we could do financially, having municipalities and government-owned agencies back into the properties when the properties weren't doing well, right? So now that they are doing well, it's important for us to reinvest and to add technology and add things that enhance the customer experience, and ultimately also the golf course itself it is our product. So reinvesting in the golf course, making sure the irrigation systems, the non-pretty, non-sexy things that will keep the golf course to the level that our customers need. But then the other thing, so first is reinvesting in our properties, but second is, and this is the part I've been leading, is a customer engagement. We call it our customer engagement program. And we actually have, I think I've told you this before, but we have monthly competitions for our general managers and our sales teams to completely focus on customer engagement. So this year we did tailor it a little bit. Before it was just kind of on property customer engagement, and now it's social and digital is one of them, and then the other one is on property. So every month we track 3 times a month, whatever that competition is, plus other things, but specifically that competition. And they get a pretty hefty prize at the end of the month if they win. So it's not only intriguing for the general manager and the team, but these things are hyper focused on what our customers actually asked us for. And so some of those things are, we send a survey out in the beginning of the year, and we ask them what they want to see at the property and what they want more information on. And so for one of them is something that we found that a lot of people wanted more interest or had interest in, is social golf events, right? 9-hole social golf events that are geared around, wine, beer, St. Patrick's Day, those sorts of things. So we're super focused on activities that include social and golf. I think like you just said, so you can bring your significant other that doesn't play golf, but they feel comfortable coming out and just enjoying the time. And so I think that's kind of the difference between before and after, is not that we weren't doing these things, but we weren't as hyper focused on reinvesting and customer engagement. Those are 2 things that as a company that you'll hear us talk about all the time.
Yeah, there's a lot there. There's a lot of really interesting points you made. And one thing that kind of stood out is, talking about your MCO priorities and strategies and ideas, like at the corporate level, you're like, hey, let's look at the performance. Here are new tools and tactics we can put into motion that we think can move the needle. But you got to get buy-in at the course level, right? Because your GMs, your directors of golf, your instructors, their marketing staff, they're on site dealing with the onslaught of the phone calls and the people in line and the broken cart on number 3. And then there's something is down, and, you probably intimately know the grind of the day to day. So how have you gotten buy-in with corporate initiatives at the course level? Obviously you talked about your program with incentive. And one of my favorite quotes is from Charlie Munger, and he says, "Show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome," which is what I always talk about with tee times. Like, if you don't disincentivize people to no-show, they'll no-show. But I guess my question is, how do you get that buy-in at the course level for the corporate initiatives that you guys have put together to move the needle?
I think it starts with having the right team members and the right leaders, because if they don't see the big picture and they're not buying into what our focus is and what our goals are as Touchstone, then they might not be the right person for that role. And so that's kind of the first thing. We have a really great team, of general managers, a really great team of salespeople that I work with. But I think the other thing is really clearly defining what the expectations are and then showing them the results. Because I think sometimes they're like, wow, that either takes too much time or it's really not going to make a difference. We're different. We have a different property. We're different. And that we hear that all the time, because every property is different. And so I think it's what we do is we have a monthly sales and marketing call, and I share the highlights. And we actually send out an email with those highlights, linking to what actually came of it. We have video footage. We try to make it very fun. And we also try to really highlight the differences. So you'll see us send emails out. We just had a wonderful email from a golfer that sent it to the general manager based on what that salesperson did, that they went above and beyond engaging with that customer. And so we share that, we highlight it. I send gift cards. Everyone loves money, especially salespeople. So I think it's a mixture of all of those things. And each person has different motivations. Some are money, some are being a part of the team, some are results driven. So we try to hit all of those with how we speak to our team, just like we're speaking to our customers. So just to kind of bring that all, because rambled a little bit. So one is the gift cards. Two is we send a monthly email highlighting who did really well. And, we do have who didn't do well on there too. So everyone can see that you didn't participate in that activity. And then the third thing is we highlight it on our sales and marketing call every month.
That's a pretty cool playbook. I mean, it's almost like a coach in a sports team. I mean, I always talk, we've grown as a team. We're now 10 full time. And as we think about our teammates and I always think of us more as a team than as a family, because you don't pick your family, you pick your teammates, right? And, your family, you love your family, but you don't hold them accountable for how they're performing as their cousin, right? But when you look at your teammates, it's like, hey, we're in the trenches together. We have a mission. We have a goal. I was an athlete, and you have to depend on your teammate to do their job well. So I always talk to my team about, hey, like, we're in this together. We got to depend on each other. And if one of us is dropping the ball, it kind of brings us all down, right? You've obviously been observing all of the trends across dynamic pricing, new marketing initiatives. There's so many new exciting innovations in the game. What are some trends that you're seeing at a high level? I mean, you obviously have different types of properties in your portfolio, whether they're more municipal or on the higher end. So what are you seeing at kind of the 2024 trend level that's getting you excited?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think for me, what's getting myself the most excited is the technology. And so whether it comes to Notify, Sagacity, all of the different programs that make it easier for our employees to make their job easier, better from a customer perspective, making that tee time booking flawless is what we really want. I know we've talked about this again, so I don't want to call 5 times to get a tee time on a Saturday. I'm just not going to do it. And if I can't get on my phone and quickly make a tee time, I'm probably not going to play golf. And so I think a lot of people, especially in, our generation after us, if they can't do it on their phone and they have to call, they're not going to do it. And so having Notify like you guys have created I think it's just awesome. So being able to get that notification and click it from a customer perspective is convenient. And just like I think Amazon is a good example, we buy things that we don't necessarily need because it's right there and it's convenient. So if I'm thinking about playing golf, not necessarily sold on playing golf today, but I get a notification that I forgot I signed up for, and it's in an hour and I'm sitting on my couch, I'm going to go play golf. And so I think that all around is huge for us. I think Sagacity has been, we've been monitoring a lot of our core. We've been monitoring a lot of the data from the course that we've deployed Sagacity at. And in a rainy month of February, we had $5,000 more in revenue than we would have had if we didn't have Sagacity using dynamic pricing. And so with the lack of rounds, we actually still hit our numbers because we had dynamic pricing set. And so I think those things, when it comes to revenue practices, staying on top of the trends and technology will make a huge difference. And that's what we're focusing on at Touchstone is we want to be a leader in technology. And so having partners like you guys make that easy for us. And so I want to commend you because you're always sending me things about what you guys have increased or what you've changed about the product to make it better from either our perspective and seeing data or from the client perspective and making it easier. So I think as far as trends, and not just saying that because I'm on the phone with you, but staying ahead of technology and making it easier from a customer perspective and from our employees' perspective is what we are looking to do. And I think that's kind of the trend we're trying to stay on.
Yeah, well, first of all, I appreciate that. That's kind of why we exist. But you know what's funny, that as you're talking about that, I reflect on our business, and we kind of have 2 customers, just like you have 2 customers. So our 2 customers, we have the course and we have the golfer. And if the golfer is not happy, the course is not happy. But the course is the one who pays us to keep the lights on. So we also have to prioritize operator needs. And sometimes
Mhm.
operators have a long list of criteria. So there is a little bit of a dynamic there where we have golfers give us feedback, but then we're like, well, how does this impact the operator? Operators give us
Mhm.
feedback. Like, for example, we've had several courses ask to remove the time portion of the alerting because they want to funnel traffic for those late afternoon times. And they almost want golfers to go to the course, get an alert, go, and then it's like, oh, but at least I'll play 4 o'clock. And we're like, hey, we don't necessarily know if the
100%.
operator, or if the golfer is going to like that. That might frustrate them. So it's that
Mhm.
balance. And I almost feel like learning more about your business, you have the owner or the
Mhm.
municipality, and you have the customer who's the golfer. But that's kind of an interesting dynamic of, all right, how do you listen to one and the other and prioritize? So when you think about like who is Touchstone's customer, how do you guys think about that question?
That's a good question. I think it depends on who you're speaking to in the company. So
Yeah.
obviously, our team, for the Touchstone executive team, it's both, right? It's definitely the customer and it's definitely our client. And there is that dynamic of clients want different things. And so one municipality might want something different than another municipality, which might want something different than our private owners. And so we, as you know, tailor everything to each property. So you won't see Touchstone anywhere when you go to the properties, which is which is a great thing. We promote the local property, and especially with our municipalities, we promote the community atmosphere. So we're looking for things that are very community driven, but that will be different than one of our private clubs where they're looking for things that are very member driven, which is community, but it's a different community, right? So they're the members are considered as their home course, which again, so do the public courses, but it is different. Everything is customized per property. And so I think where we find, like your question of who is our customer, it depends on what we're looking at. So what part of the business are we looking at? But they're all our customers. And so they're all equally important and they all equally have different needs and wants.
Well, now I see why you climbed to be vice president, because you're a great politician.
Yeah, I'm like,
Right? You're like,
keep
let me
this
not
very even
yeah.
here.
Another a little like a funny line. One of my old managers, he was a great sales leader from Accenture, and I was working on the sales team there for a little bit. He always had this line, which is, "Don't break yourself into jail," right? which,
Yeah,
which pretty much
too.
means don't have unforced error on the field. If you got the ball, don't like pass it out of bounds. Like, don't break yourself into jail. I say that to our guys all the time, and gals. Well,
Yeah.
just a few
We
more
say to our
questions.
sales,
Oh yeah, go
sorry.
ahead. What
Well,
was
I
the
was gonna
line
say
you
we
were
always
saying?
say to our team is like don't answer a question you weren't asked for our sales team because we find that like they're like answering questions and it's like you just lost the sale because you answered a question that they didn't even ask. So I think
Yes.
it's listening and answering their questions, not answering a question not asked. So similar as well.
Right. I'm gonna plagiarize that line and tell our team, "Hey, don't answer a question you're not asked." It's very nice and tactical, but you guys
Yes.
you try the line of "Don't break yourself into jail."
Yes. I like that one too.
Few more questions, just maybe two more for you. The first is like, are there any
Yeah.
big mistakes that you've seen either from peers that you've made as you all have grown the business and, bobbed and weaved in the macro environment? Are there any mistakes you've either made or seen others make that, maybe other operators out there should think about to avoid?
Yeah, I would think that the probably the biggest mistake is not using the data you have your access on or you have access to. And so one and then also not maximizing public play versus tournaments. I look at that often obviously because I oversee the sales team, but I see now that I think pre-COVID a lot of teams would just sell a tournament to have it on the books and to have guaranteed revenue, whether it was discounted, whether it was the same rate, whatever that was. And now I see the opposite. I see courses totally turning down tournaments, which I also think is not what we should be doing. going back to growing the game in the future, a lot of times people play their first round of golf in a foursome, in a four-man scramble nonprofit tournament. And so we don't want to not have those either. But I think coming back to technology, it's important to use our technology and use our historical data to find a happy medium and what price and what time makes sense for that tournament. And so a lot of times it's like, well, the tournament wants 10 a.m. on a Saturday. That's not going to work. But what does work, and so that's up to, me and my sales team, and I think a lot of people that you're interviewing or, having these conversations with, is to educate the sales team on how to transition that conversation to have both, because we don't want to get rid of tournaments. That's not going to help the future of golf, but we do want to maximize the revenue we have on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday morning, right? So I think that's the biggest thing I see right now. And we're doing competitive market analysis, and it's one way or the other right now. It's like, yeah, come on out, or it's no, we don't do tournaments anymore. And so I just think that could be a deterrent for future golf. And so and for future revenue, that's a yearly tournament that comes back every year. So I think those are things that people need to take a look at. And kind of bringing back to Sagacity, I don't know if you've seen this, they actually have a tournament pricing calculator in it. And so we're really checking that out and seeing how that works for our company right now, technology wise and pricing wise. But I think it's a really cool tool, and it could benefit a lot of companies.
That's really interesting. I'm actually playing my first ever tournament. Which it's actually a pretty cool one. So, Brian Reed from Simi Hills, he was, I know he's been there for, I think, like 25 years. He's fantastic, and a former AGC, but they do all sorts of cool things at Simi. And what they're doing, it's like a Masters. It's like the Simi Masters, but it's on Sunday. It's on Saturday of the Masters, and you pick a player in the Masters, and they're your playing partner. So whatever
we've done this before.
Yeah, they shoot, awesome. You stroke. It's like, all right, well, at least, this is actually really cool. My playing partners, don't stink anymore. Sorry to my buddies, but it's just like a fun thing. I've never played in a tournament. So like Friday night before, I think there's food and drinks and a putting competition, and, bring the family. And I think that part, just making the game warm and fuzzy, obviously there's many different types of players. You've got your the folks who are really good. And, I was talking to another founder yesterday, who is an incredible golfer, but actually doesn't like playing anymore because it's too competitive. And then you've got my friends, like, if we break 90, we're ecstatic. But, initiatives like that, I think that's more of the art, right? Like, that has nothing to do with dynamic pricing or Notify or, tag marshal analytics. That's just fun things to get folks out and get that lifetime value of the game. All right, last question for you, and then I'll let you go. I framed this previously of kind of what advice do you have for other folks who want to break into the market, but I'm going to reframe it, which is, what advice would you have give to yourself before your first day in the world of sales? So if you went back to actually before your first sales role, what advice would you kind of have for yourself in, knowing what you know now?
Be on the operations side. No, I'm just kidding. No, I would never say that.
Yeah. You broke yourself into jail.
Right. I probably would. I would say, that's a good question. What would I say differently? I don't know if it would be different, but I just didn't think this way at that time. And I would be telling myself to continually learn and stay ahead of technology, because I think I've done that to an extent, but not been so far ahead of it as I would like to be. And so technology and data analytics. And so I ended up doing that later in my master's, but had I done that earlier and really stayed ahead of a lot of that, I think I just would have gotten to a position faster and understood more of the entire business versus just wedding and event sales. And that was kind of the avenue I was in. And I think at the time I was like, well, weddings are best for everything. And it's not the case, right? And just like a tournament's not always best at that time. So I think learning and learning the technology, learning the business as quickly as you can helps. And so I would tell anyone that one, you can learn anything online now, but learn every aspect of the business as quickly as you can, because it'll help you make decisions in whatever aspect you're in. So if you're in operations, go be a bartender for a day, go work out on the maintenance team for a day. But to know every position on our like very intricate business, because it seems like it's just, a golf course. It doesn't seem like it has all these facets, but it does. So from an outsider's perspective, when they actually learn all the different things that happen on a golf course, I think they're really surprised. And so I think even we are coming into the industry. And so I think, again, just really knowing every part of the business from the beginning helps you make every decision as you grow as a leader in the business.
Yeah, it almost sounds like that growth mindset in general, right? I mean, I used to think about this all the time as a wrestler, as an athlete, like just get 1% better a day. Like I gotta get a little bit better today than when I woke up. That's it. That's the only goal. And if you're learning, if you're absorbing, if you're open-minded, then it sounds like the compound effect kicks in. And over time, you just are getting better and better. So I love that advice. I've learned so much today. This has been such a great conversation, Ashley. Thanks so much for
having
hopping
me
on. And all 20 people who listen to this are going to love it.
Well, I might listen to it, so I'll add 21, or maybe I am the 20 already.
You're going to have to send it to your team, and then, we're going to boost that top line of the metrics here. But
I'll
I really
see how I
appreciate
sound
it.
first.
Yeah, exactly. Give me the green light.
Thanks,
But I
Jay.
really
No, you've been great to work with.
Yeah, thanks for everything. And let's rock it in 2024.
Sounds good. We'll have to get a golf session out there.
I promise to lower the pressure on you performing.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Sounds
All right.
great.
Thanks,